Hey everyone, it's Types, and today I'm going to be making a tier list of all the decks in standard format, except it's not based on how good they are, it's based on how fun they are to play. So we got all the decks. We're actually on Trainer Hill here today, because I think it actually works really well for this. So, and now it says what the decks are. I've actually not included all the decks. There are a few others, but I chose from this drop-down list, so it hopefully includes everything. Some of them are kind of vague, like Arceus, so I'll have it include a variety of things. But whatever, let's just hop into it. So first of all, we have Lost Zone box, and we have a few Lost Zone decks. I haven't actually used this tier maker before, but I think it works like regular tier maker. So Lost Zone box with Rating Greninja, I'm pretty sure, is fine. Can I add another tier? No. Okay, so it's SABCD. Yeah, I'd say this is gonna be B, or I'll say it's yeah, I'll say it's A. It's really good. It's probably the best deck in the game. It's certainly up there, but it's also there are a lot of really hard decisions, and the hard decisions don't when you make a good decision, it doesn't feel like you just made a great decision because the game just kind of continues normally. And if you made a bad decision, you'll learn out 5 turns later that all of a sudden you don't have the card you need, so it's kind of hard to play and it's kind of not fun in that way. Hard decks can be fun. I enjoy them, and many people do because they require more thought. But it depends on the matchup. A lot of the time, it's pretty not interesting. But certain matchups are interesting as well. I don't know, decks that have moderate amounts of HP where you spread stuff around. It's spread decks are cool, but Lost Zone's kind of obnoxious and overpowered, so it's not always the most fun when you're just winning all the time. Next up, we have Lost Zone Charizard. I think this is a little less interesting. Actually, I'll put in A as well. I personally enjoy it. Oh, it's okay. There we go. I'll try to order them. It looks like it's a little weird with that. But it's a cool deck as well. It has less options, but in my opinion, it's just a bit more of a fun deck to play. You're not stressed about messing up and making weird decisions that hurt you a lot down the road. So I think it's a pretty fair deck to play. But it's nothing amazing, but it's fun. It's cool. Giratina Lost Zone, I'll actually put above the others. You have a bit more versatility, so you have some more options. It's a little inconsistent at times, but you can always pretty much do something. And again, it's a very strong deck, but you can compete with higher HP Pokemon as well. So that's funny. You can live hits. In the other Lost Zone decks, you don't ever live hits. And if you want to live hits, you can play Lost Zone Gudra, but also it's the least interesting in my opinion. It's pretty linear, and can be a little inconsistent as well. Next up, we have Gardevoir, and then we have Gardevoir with Mewtwo. Gardevoir with Mewtwo is you can also play Reversal Energy. It's kind of like a deck, but that's cool as well. So I think regular Gardevoir is fine. I personally don't. I'm really bad at Gardevoir for whatever reason. It's not a good ladder deck. You always fall behind. I think Gardevoir Mewtwo's fun, but Mewtwo V is so overpowered when it sets up. Usually just win or you don't set it up. So I don't think that's very fun. I don't think this build's fun. I think regular Gardevoir is cool though. I'll put an A tier in between some of the Lost Zone decks. It's a cool deck, but you can get kind of rolled over as well at certain times. But playing stage 2s and evolution lines and kind of mixing and matching with that's pretty fun. Actually, I'll move Gardevoir Mewtwo up a little. You can win. The ones that play Luxray and stuff are kind of fun. They're kind of inconsistent, but they're cool. Then we have some Lugia decks, and I'll also talk about the Arceus decks. So, a Lugia Single Strike is a fun deck. Actually, it's not that fun. I don't know. So I'll do this, then I'll bring the Arceus ones over as well. I only have a few Arceus decks here because it's kind of hard to group them. But Lugia Archeops, first of all, it's a cool deck, I suppose. You get to accelerate all this energy, which is fun. I don't know. I think the options for attacks are kind of boring though, and it's also kind of inconsistent. So I'll put in B tier. It's actually the lowest of the ones so far. If I can figure out how to get it there. I don't know why it doesn't want to order stuff right. There we go. So it's not, I don't think it's that fun, but it's not awful either. It's just kind of inconsistent and kind of linear. And then Single Strike Lugia is also okay, but it's pretty inconsistent, which isn't good. If you want to have fun, you want to have consistency. In a lot of matchups, you don't really make many interesting decisions at all either because your attacker is obvious. And if you can't use an attacker, their matchups are just unwinnable against if your opponent's playing Flying Pikachu, that's really bad. So yeah, I think the colorless Archeops build is a little better because you have more neutral attackers that require a bit more skill. The Snorlax itself just is a bit more complicated. Next up, there are similar decks though. I guess Giratina, I don't know. I also find this deck pretty boring. You don't really make interesting decisions with it either. You pretty much just attack with Arceus, then attack with Giratina. Um, it's just pretty basic. It's pretty boring in my opinion. I'm not saying we're gonna put in D tier. I think it's like kind of not interesting very much at all. It does play Scovet per barrel, but that's still pretty simple. And sometimes you see text, but not usually. And I'll have that under Arceus. Arceus Duraludon, though, is kind of cool. I like this deck as well. But it's inconsistent, so I'm going to put it top of B. It's a fun deck to play when it... Actually, no, I'm going to put it in bottom of D. Bottom of B, somewhere around here. It's really inconsistent. When it works, it's fun, but it's also somewhat straightforward. The Umbreons make it a bit more spicy because you can, like, Gust and... you have a bit more of an interesting matchup spread and stuff because now you have the Umbreon just for different matchups, which is cool. But it's an inconsistent deck, so that's not great. And lastly, we have the Arceus deck, which is like Arceus with Flying Pikachu, Vulpix, Umbreon, not Giratina or Duraludon, but Espeon and some other weird stuff. This is probably my favorite deck to play right now, to be honest. I'll put an S. I don't know what else will be an S. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think it's a really cool deck right now because it's really versatile. Actually, is it S? Yeah, it's my favorite. This is a tier, so it's my opinion. I'm going to put it in S. It's interesting because you have different routes to go in different matchups, and you need to kind of explore your Pokemon in different creative ways. For example, something like Hisuian Decidueye V hits the effects, which is kind of cool, or you can search for cards with it. That's not played too much in Arceus boxes right now because it's not super good, but it's still cool. Aerodactyl's cool, and you can throw whatever you want in it. You can really personalize it and make it your own, and that's cool. You can do the same thing with like Lawson and stuff, but I think Arceus is really fun. And it's decently consistent and has like comeback conditions and stuff like that. Now we have Mew decks, Mew Genesect, and Fusion Mew. I'm going to put Mew Genesect, which is I'm pretty sure with double turbo, at the bottom of D tier. I think this deck really isn't fun to play at all. You have some moderately interesting plays, but like you play Path oftentimes, and you just like stop the game, which isn't fun. Like it always hurts you a lot to play Path. So that means it's hurting your opponent a lot, and pretty much neither player is having any fun, which isn't good. And then there's also like double turbo is fine, but your attacking options aren't that interesting. Mostly it's do damage. You have an attack that hits your effects, which is useful a small percentage of the time, and then one that shuffles you back into your deck, which is also kind of useful, but it's still not that fun. I think Mew Genesect is the least fun deck in the game because it's like a turbo deck, but you take out the turbo aspect, and it's just kind of silly. But then the Fusion Mew build, I think, with the like Meloid and turbo stuff is actually pretty fun. I'll put in A. I'll put it actually right above. I'll put it in top of A. I think it's a really fun deck. You just go so hard. You get like turn 1 KO sometimes. And you draw like half your deck turn 1. It's really fun. I mean, I literally made a whole video where the whole point of the video is to deck out with Mew a bunch of times, which is really funny. It's obviously kind of... it's not the best deck in the game right now. There are heavy counters, which makes it a bit annoying, but it's still pretty fun. And probably the deck. Like I don't play this deck a lot because it's kind of boring too. But if I just want to like play lots of cards, it's cool, and it's not that boring either because you have the Meloetta, so you can mix up your attackers. And some people even play Ice Cube, which is kind of cool, although it isn't like super turbo. And we have the Miraidon decks. Why do we have Miraidon Regieleki twice? Okay, well that is strange. I honestly have no idea how they got there, but whatever. Miraidon Regieleki is not that interesting, but you have some options with mixing things up with like the Regieleki, throwing that in there. I'm going to move Arceus, Lugia Arceus down to C, but I think Miraidon Regieleki is kind of fun because you have options where you attack with a different Pokemon. You also go pretty fast and pretty hard, which is cool. But you also like always stall out, so you can take the first 2 prizes very easily. The next 2 prizes with a bit more work, and then the last 2 prizes you usually don't take. So you usually lose with this deck. I think it's one of the lowest win rates of all the decks here, which is pretty sad. It's actually really bad, but on ladder it's good because people always quit before the last prizes anyway. And then we have the Miraidon Flaffy deck, which is kind of cool as well. It has a bit more versatility, but also like your Flaffy just die. I'd say it's about the same. It's a very different deck because it's slower and you have a bit more versatility, but also it's different. I personally like Miraidon Regieleki more. It's kind of cool. Ryan and Fluffy is better as well, but it's less like explosive. So it's really up to you. I think either's fine. I don't see too much difference in how fun they are. And Chin Pao, Baxcalibur, and I'll just put all the water decks here. So we got Chin Pao, Baxcalibur. It's a cool deck. I honestly think this is a really cool deck as well. I'm going to put an S tier. It's really fun. It's like Gardevoir, but I think it's just more fun. You get to search out the energy more consistently. The deck just more consistent than Gardevoir, or at least faster than Gardevoir. I don't know if I say it's more consistent. I personally think Chin Pao is better than Gardevoir. I know a lot of people think Gardevoir is better than Chin Pao, but I think Chin Pao is like cool. You can just get to throw all this energy on. And Gardevoir, you also kind of do that, but you like damage your Pokemon the whole time you're doing it, so it's not as fun. And Chin Pao, just you do this massive damage as well. You can just one-shot anything. Greninja offers some fun spread. You can play some other attacks as well, which are cool. I think the deck has versatility, has power, and has a stage 2 with an EX, and it introduces these cool mechanics. It's one of my... It used to be the main deck I was playing. Now it's not. Now I'm just play Arceus, like general Arceus box decks. I think Chin Pao with different V-Stars is also cool as well. And we have Palkia. Palkia, I believe, with Gardevoir. So Palkia V-Star with Gardevoir engine. This deck's kind of whatever. I don't think it's super interesting right now. Without the Inteleon engine, it's not as cool. I'm going to put it in C tier. I just don't really enjoy playing it that much. It can be interesting. It's a bit of a rogue pick. And not one you'll see a lot with just like straight Palkias. It might be like the least played of all the decks on this list, to be honest. But it's still not that... I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. Then the Kyurem deck, I don't know. This isn't my type of deck either. It's very linear, but it's kind of funny as well. It's kind of silly. I'll put it in like middle B tier. Actually, I'll put it in top of B tier. It does something that no other deck does. And it just plays absurd amounts of energy, like more than any of the other decks. Like Miraidon Vigil, he can play high amounts. I'm double checking. Dialga Magnezone also plays a lot of energy, but Kyurem is like kind of silly. It's kind of brain dead as well, but it's like kind of fun in this way. That's brain dead, I guess. I haven't played the deck, but I know a lot of people like it. And now we have Urshifu Inteleon. This is a weird deck, but it's so cool. I'm going to put it at the top of S. You have a lot of versatility, and I think you have a very solid shot in every matchup. It's a bit inconsistent, unfortunately, but it's not that bad. And then it's like strong, but you need to make good plays. It's a bit hard to play. It's not like super hard, but you need to kind of know what you're doing. The Radiant Alakazam, it's easier to play honestly than with the Radiant Alakazam itself is easier to play than with the Arceus decks, which are just so confusing. I have Radiant Alakazam in like a lot of Arceus decks, and I'm just so confused every game. But Urshifu Inteleon, you kind of need to have some game plan, but you can also just kind of wing it. It's really fun. You can just destroy your opponent's board. You can come back from a 6 prize if you're down 6 prizes. It's crazy with Medicham. It's so fun. Dialga Magnezone is also a cool deck. I'll put it in a top of A. It's really actually no. I'm going to put it top of B. It's kind of It's like really inconsistent, kind of bad. But when you set up, you just kind of roll your opponents over. It's way cooler than the other Dialga decks we saw in the past, which are super boring. Like the first one, Metal Sasha, that was awful. But no, this one's so cool. It's silly. You have to play Adaman. It kind of seems like it shouldn't work. You play like these different types of Pokemon as well, but it's a really cool deck. I think it's one of my. I mean, it's definitely it's like the only metal deck right now, but it's fun. It has like power. It's very swingy. If you want to like win or if you want to make good plays, it's not the deck for you. But if you want to like do stupid stuff, it's good. You can like take extra turns, which is always fun. Next we have I'll do Shadow Rider. Shadow Rider's honestly Shadow Rider I don't think is cool in this meta. I doesn't really have anything going for it. I don't know. I know some people play it. I maybe shouldn't have included it on this list at all anyways. But yeah, Shadow Rider is like it's not much of anything. So you really struggle. You can like stall and stuff. But that's not really interesting. And if you want to hit big damage, just play like Chin Pao, Gardevoir, do something similar. Arceus as well is kind of similar in that vein of like, if you want to play out like a Zoroark GX, if you like Zoroark GX, you might like a Shadow Rider, but play Arceus instead. And then we have, I'll talk about Hisuian Zoroark. I'll talk about Darkrai as well. Darkrai V-Star is kind of cool. It's kind of like that rogue deck that like pops up from time to time. I don't exactly know if I'd call it a rogue deck, I suppose. But it like appears just randomly, and it's kind of funny. It's a pretty solid deck. I don't know. I don't think it's that interesting though. Like it just like it's kind of like Shadow Rider, kind of like Chain Pow Gardevoir, but it's like boring. You do have these different attackers, but they'll kind of just do the same thing of like a bunch of damage. So I don't think it's that cool of a deck. You just get all the synergy in play, but it's not like crazy. You're just playing some basic Pokemon and some item cards, and that's about it. I don't think it's the coolest deck. Nisun Zoroark, I really like this deck, but it's really bad too. I'll also put an A, not top of A, bottom of A, because you get like a bit of versatility. Sometimes with your attackers, I think people have added some different ideas, but most importantly, you just get to like mess around and do big damage. It doesn't hit as hard as it would. Now, the more I think about it, like the worse it is. I'll put it in like B somewhere. It's like a fun deck, but it's kind of bad. But you get to like hit big damage, and you get to like kind of turbo. But in terms of turbo decks, it doesn't quite live up to all the other decks right now because it's just kind of bad. Now we have. I'll talk about Meowscarada next. I think Meowscarada is a cool stage 2 deck. It's kind of like Urshifu Inteleon, but bad and less versatile. I'll put it in top of. Put in like the middle of A here. Right? I think it's an okay deck. Actually, no, I'll put it. I'll put it like here. It's fun, but it gets bad, and it isn't consistent, and it like isn't. I feel like you should always play Inteleon Urshifu Inteleon over this because it just bad. It doesn't even like get the damage amounts you want. It does actually less than Inteleon. It gives up less prizes, but I don't know. I should try the deck, but it's just kind of silly. It feels kind of silly because just play Inteleon, right? Next, we have Snorlax Stall. Snorlax Stall is like an okay deck. I mean, it's not actually a very good deck. It's kind of bad right now, but it's like fun. I personally like playing this deck. It's bad. It's bad for ladder because obviously your opponent's gonna quit every game. But I'll put it in A. I'm a control player, so I feel like I kind of got to put it here. I'll put it up here. Next, Ting Lu. I mean, Ting Lu. I love Ting Lu. I'm so evil. I'm just like that ladder player that you hate. But Ting Lu is like, I don't know. It's just so tempting. It's very good right now because it's just so toxic. It's the definition of a ladder deck. It's simple and easy. It's fast. In terms of like it gets through, you draw cards quickly. It's kind of turbo-y, and then it just like slows your opponent down. It's super not fun to play against. Ting Lu is like kind of fun if you're like evil like me. Ting Lu S tier. It's not that complex though, unfortunately. Then we have Zoroark Box. Zoroark Box is also really fun. I gotta put it in S tier. Actually, I'm gonna put it at top of S tier. Zoroark Box is so fun. Actually, no, I'll put it below these guys. I'm gonna put it right above Ting Lu. Zoroark Box is really cool though. It's a fun deck. Because it's just options. If you haven't played Zoroark before, you got to play it. It's actually all right. Some people act like it's the worst thing in the world. Some people act like it's the best thing in the world. Really, it's just somewhere in between. But it's cool. You get to make some fun plays. Most importantly, you just play whatever attackers you feel like, and it kind of works. But it also doesn't work a lot of the time. But it's still a very fun deck to play. Next up, the final two decks, you have two single price basic Action United Wings. Regis, I'm gonna put Regis in D tier. Regis are really bad. Like they're really horrendously awful right now. So like they're so bad. They're not that fun to play either. In order to make them kind of viable, you need to take out some of the interesting aspects. And you're not as much of a toolbox based deck anymore, which is kind of sad. But it's a deck. It was cool when Aurora was around, but it's not around anymore, so it's bad. And then United Wings. United Wings is kind of fun. I'll put in A tier. I'm going to drop down. Oh, not the top. I'm going to drop down Lost Charizard, I guess. I'll move. Yeah, that's fine. United Wings is a fun deck. You get to kind of go fast. It's a single prize deck. If you like Mad Party, obviously it's fun. If you like just single prize decks, it's the single prize deck right now, I'd say. I mean, Lost Zone's also a single prize deck, but no one really is like, what I love Lost Zone. Like, it's a cool deck, but it's not spicy. And Zoroark is also cool, but like United Wings is a new deck, and it's fun. But yeah, I'm wondering what you think of this tier list. Can you see it? I'm doing a slightly different setup. It's very similar, but it's slightly different. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you subscribed. And sorry if my voice sounded kind of bad. I'm actually kind of sick right now, but I hope you enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see you next time.